tell you something that's always very consistent is whenever our economy starts to struggle, we all need something to lean on, and it's always something that's intangible, and that's music. And when people are hurting for things, especially money, they need something to make them feel good and to make them feel comfortable with what's going around us. And I think country music, we're so constant lyrically, and especially in times of need. And I think that other musicians have looked up to guys like Johnny Cash, Willie Whalen, and Chris Christopherson, many other legends. And I think that we all lean on them. And so you start to hear this more organic movement in people all over, Mumford and Sons. I mean, you hear just the organic sounds in the music right now. And I think that it's all due to just all of us realizing that we all have each other's back, and it always seems to do that in times of need.
I think the main thing about country music to the fans and the people that are listening is so relatable, and the songs they hear, and whether they're born and raised in the South or whether they're out there on the West Coast, I think a lot of people can relate, and coming from Otto, like you said, there's been Carrie, Kelly, Bucky Cone, Josh Grayson. I mean, Lauren was like a country finale in my season, so yeah. I think people just relate to it. They see these songs and they see it as real in real life, and I think people get it more so than maybe some other crazy techno stuff. I think they get it.
I think that because country music is starting to embrace influences from other styles of music, we're allowed now to, Jason rapped in a song, so we're allowed to do that if we want, or we can, put, for me, it's more rock influences, classic rock influences, and it's embraced by the format, and I think that everybody loves that, like classic rock. Everybody wants to hear a little bit of other things, and so it actually, I think what it does is it opens everybody's eyes to country music, and then they become a fan, and then they start to listen, and they go, oh yeah, I really like all of this. Yeah, and they realize these are real songs about real life, and it's really relatable music.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's a big thing right now. Everybody's about being real and like being able to understand things, and it's a big thing in our culture right now. And so I think that's probably why
formats have just changed so much, and that the, say, like 107.5 that I said I listened to, when I was younger, they used to play artists like Jewel and Sheryl Crow, Alanis Morissette, in terms of females, and now it's so hip-hop driven. I feel like country is maybe what pop was, and I just think that people missed artists that were telling stories and telling the truth.
It's funny. It's just you see the shift going on. A lot of it you can give credit to folks like Taylor Swift, Rascal Flatts, all these people that branch out and can tap into places that I wouldn't be able to, or some of these other artists can't get to. And not just a few, there's several of them. And it brings, anytime you can bring more people into country music, it's a good thing. Whether you like the music or not, or whether you prefer the old style over this, if it's bringing more people into our industry, that's how we make a living, and that's what we love to do so much. So it's a good thing, and it's been awesome to watch that. And Luke Bryan, whether you like Country Girls Shake It For Me a lot, he got a lot of country girls shaking their thing to Luke Bryan across the country. And now all of a sudden, every sorority house, if they're jamming, it's maybe not all rap, or maybe it's not, they're going to turn on Luke Bryan. And if they want to hear something a little heavier, they can turn on Brantley Gilbert. They can turn, it's just it's like the cool place to be now.
Country overall is probably one of the realest formats that's left. I mean, it's all about the song, it's about the music, and there's some depth to it, and I think people gravitate towards that. I mean, when someone can relate to a song on a personal level, I think it, can hit a nerve, strike a chord with people that, a pop song that's about, absolutely nothing might not. So I think people can relate on a different level.
I think because it's not all that country anymore. It's very pop. There's a lot of rock. There's a lot of different aspects of different music in country now. And I think a lot of old school country fans probably are a little bothered by that, but the other people, the rock people, the pop people, I think they love it.
Gosh, I don't know. It's cool, There's a lot of pop elements in country music that are pretty, like Carrie Underwood's "Blown Away" song. I mean, that's an amazing song with really cool production that just sounds like, it doesn't sound like country music. It sounds like something anybody from any genre can latch on to. So think there's a lot of that going on nowadays.
Yeah.
Music, it's always been cool, and people are they're figuring it out in all genres. So that's my
The
answer.
last few years, there's been a conscious effort from our industry to go more mainstream, to really gravitate musically toward the young demo, the teenagers, the early 20-year-olds. And with that, I think it's making our music much more commercial, much more universal. It's not as crying in your beer, cheating songs and all those things like it used to be. It's earthy, it's relative. It's, about cruising with your girlfriend. It's about, it's more current with what's going on in our society these days. And I think a lot of it too is I think social media is having a big impact on the commercial viability of country as
Probably, let's all be honest. What music made the most impact? Probably across the board, starting from the early 1900s. You would probably say anything from the 50s to the late 70s, classic rock. That was what those songs, from Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, into the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, even into like the Doors, and then Mellencamp and Springsteen and Tom Petty came in, and I think that's classic rock, and I think the lyrics and everything, and I think that's kind of where country music is now. I think if me naming Petty, me naming Don Henley, who's one of my favorite vocalists of the Eagles, if these guys were coming out today, it would be in the country music genre. And I think that it's really the last genre where you can find that. Now, I dig pop, I dig hot AC, but everybody wants to hear a raunchy guitar. Everybody wants to hear lyric that's sung, whether it's about the heartland or the city or whatever you want to say, but it's also about lyrics, and I think country music is pretty much that's where you can go to hear the story.
It's the songs. It's relatable music, and people are gravitating towards that. And I have friends back home that I'd never thought would be country music friends, and that would make fun of me for being a country music man, and they love it now too. And I think it's just I think it has a lot to do with the songs and the stories and the artists as well.
I think that the root of country music is storytelling, and I mean the music's awesome, but I think it's really just about relating to other human beings on that level, and there's kind of a transparency to that, and I think that might be why we're drawn to reality TV and having friends and all that, just like that human connection. So I think the stories that country music tells
And how it's so relatable
probably make people just want to see it more in what they see all the time because they're relating with it.
People are just hungry for organic, real music. I feel like
Great answer.
pop music's become so saturated with just beats and keyboards and whatever, all that production, and I think that country's still some form of real instruments and real singing and real lyrics and just real music. And I think that in the 90s, pop music was saturated with that, and with guitars and real songs and real singers. So I think that maybe it's just coming back around where people want that.
Yeah, they sound magic.
Are starting to latch on and realize country music for what it is, because it's just the everyday, hard-working, average person's music. It's like you don't even have to be driving a pickup truck or working on a farm, busting your butt, slinging hay bales. You can still relate. There's a country song for everything. You can relate to it whether or not you're wearing camouflage or you're redneck. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what people are really starting to realize, that it's not just about, my dog died and my truck broke down and woe is me.
I think country music has broadened its horizons a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people that have opened it up, and some people knock it, and I think it's amazing. I think it's great for the community of country music to have a Taylor Swift, to have a Russell Fletcher, to have a George Strait, to have a Keith Urban, a Tim McGraw. There's different genres of country now, and country is just broadened, and I think it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the sounds and the production are very different. You might hear less steel in some of the most recent recordings, whereas you know, some of the coolest. I think what happens is people who wouldn't generally listen to country music find it through some of these new young artists, and then they realize, wait a minute, I thought country was this, and then all of a sudden they start finding more, you know, in the past from country, and they're like, whoa, it wasn't what I thought it was all along. There's some really great songs. There's some really great music here, and they think of it as just one kind of thing, like a country and western kind of thing, and that may not be their taste. But then they find some of this pop country type stuff or rock country type stuff, and they're like, well, wait, I kind of like what I'm hearing.